Real quick, is kind of a last thing to do here, just because of who we have on this appcast, is Jeff, obviously, and we've talked about what the service that your site is going to serve, for the marketplace, as far as finding outsourcers and outsourcers, a place for outsourcers to get work and projects and stuff like that. And Carter, with your experience of working with outsourcers, I wonder if we could spend just a few minutes talking about outsourcing. And I've got a few questions to run past you guys, just to get your thought. And we'll just kind of try to do this quickly, and we can always expand upon it on future appcasts if it makes sense to do so. And this is one of those bottomless pits of a subject we can talk about it forever. But
we're running long too. So.
Yeah, we're running long. So let me just go ahead and dive right in. And number one, this is the question you'll hear time and time again, and I'm sure you guys do, and Jeff, you might be a little biased with your answer on this one, but
I'll be completely biased, I promise.
Where do you find good developers? And to that, to take that a little step further, is what are the basic vetting questions? Like, give us a couple of questions you ask at the very onset of before you engage a developer.
Yeah, I've definitely hired both good and bad developers, and even today I still occasionally will hire a bad developer, and I think that, to be honest with you, it's almost impossible not to do it on occasion. But the idea is that you need to recognize it like super early, like within the first week, and that's totally possible to do. I would not. There's a lot of payment schemes out there where, we pay a third up front, a third in the middle. Don't do that. Get some sample code from them. Put them on a micro project and examine the micro project. I can tell you in my own experience that when I have made a bad hire, or anybody that I know has made a bad hire, it was at a moment of laziness that the questions that should have been asked were not asked. And it was really down to being prepared, having questions written down, so that when that call comes to you, and you're in the kitchen, you got to run to your computer, sit down at Skype, and ask this person questions, that you make sure that you ask everybody the same questions and that you don't miss one, because every single question is really important. And number one, make sure that you have an example of their work, something that is at least as complicated as you want to accomplish. If they cannot provide it to you, or they give you a sample of work from their company, or they give you a sample, of something they did 2 years ago, forget it. It has to be recent. It has to be the actual developer that's going to be working on your site, and it has to be, at least as complicated as something that you want to build. And I would say that's probably the most important thing that you can do when you hire a developer. I don't know, Carter may have a different view, but for me, that's been the golden rule. So,
I would definitely say that seeing what they've done is huge, and knowing that it's them who are the ones who are doing it. Because a lot of times when it comes to outsourcing, it's like, oh, this is our work, like, yeah, okay, whatever, dude. I've seen that before. One thing I would throw in there, two things real quick, would be, one, whenever I put up a job on Odesk or Elance or anything, I always put at the end of the job request, make sure you type in this sentence at the beginning of your response so I know you read this.
Yes.
And all these guys, I'll get half of them will just give me a templated thing, and then half of them will write exactly what I asked them to write. And so right there, I've narrowed down 50% of the people. So that's probably one quick tip that I would say. And the second is that I always ask pretty specific and complicated questions in my job request. And I say, like, this is what I'm thinking about doing. Love to hear your thoughts. Here's the project, and explain the whole thing. And if they don't come back to me with either asking me more questions or with a very good answer to that question and wanting to continue the conversation on Skype or GChat or whatever, that conversation's like, that's it. Like, I'm not interested in working with them. So those are two things that I definitely do.
It's those canned emails where, yes, we have very good developers, we help you well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice, and it's one of those things. Like, I've hired numerous of outsourcers as well, and that was one of the things that I later on adopted, was even if it's just our email response, like, make your subject line this or whatever, just that one little, and that's the first thing. And then the second thing for me is to, instead of having, and this kind of goes to what you were talking about, Jeff, as far as structuring the payments and stuff is make a really, really simple milestone be the first part of the project and release funds done. Like create, like for apps, like create a screen with 3 buttons that look like this. They don't need to have any functionality yet. I just want to see that they work. Do a screencast of it, and let me check it out. And then I'll give you instructions on the second half or what the next step is for. Like just build in stops so that if they're not the right person, if they can't deliver that in an hour or a day or whatever, cut them loose, move on. You have to be quick to make that decision. Otherwise, you're just you're basically hurting yourself. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to answer my own question.
Well, it's all about following directions with the outsource, right? You're trying to be able to get to a point as quickly as possible to see how well they can actually not only do the work, but follow your directions. Because that's where a lot of the breakdown is in the
communication.
The communication.
And that leads to the second question too, actually pretty well. The other part of that though is you have to know how well of a project manager you are. If you're a piss poor project manager, don't put that rule on yourself. Like what I mean? Like that's huge. Or figure out a system. Do a little bit of studying. Figure out what the agile project management system is, or what some other ways to actually learn project management, and then systemize it for yourself before you basically bring anyone else into your chaotic
So
work.
here's where the biased part comes in that you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We've built a project management system into our freelance marketplace so that the providers have to behave in a certain way. They have to deploy those best practices. So you're going to get those updates. Those tasks are going to get done according to a certain time schedule. And you know what? Their payments in sort of in the fund. And if they don't meet those goals, if they're not delivering what they promised to deliver, they very well may not get paid. So we've developed that project management tool so that when clients come, they don't have the project management skills. And I'm not a particularly great project manager, but having this tool there will fill in those gaps and really make sure that the project gets delivered. So there's your biased answer that you were talking about.
And I did not know that was something you had built into your platform, so I did not see that at all. And we had a conversation about that this morning about project management and learning. Actually, Len and I that's one of the things we were chatting about this morning, or one tiny part of it. And that's one of my biggest issues is I have a hard time letting go and micromanaging. And we've had a few really good outsourcers lately in a few different areas, and that's helping me trust better. And I think that's the biggest thing is you have to let go and you have to trust the people that you're putting in charge. Again, measure it, manage it, but get to the point where I'd imagine, Cardi, you probably have people you work with on a regular basis. Like build that team up of people you trust.
So it's all about delegating too, because as a business owner, which is what we've been talking about, moving from hobby to business in the app world, as a business owner, delegation is always very, very important to be able to learn how to do better, because you cannot wear all hats in your business.
Yeah.
So real quick, another question I wanted to dive into is, again, you traditionally, when you think of outsourcers, you think of areas like Philippines, India, Eastern Bloc, or you think of these traditional areas, and along with that comes some confusion on your part, like, okay, what am I going to do about the language barrier, the communication issues, or the cultural differences? And those are considerations, across the board. What do you think? How do you get over, I guess, that hurdle? I don't know if either one of you want to take this first, but for instance, and this is actually something, Jeff, you shared, so I'm quoting you on this, is like Southeast Asia, it's really hard to get bad news from developers. So obviously it makes it really difficult to know when your project's running off track or getting off the track. So how do you or any of the challenges they're facing or whatever how do you deal with things like that?
Well, there's a really great study I read, and I should have had that. Maybe I'll bring it on the next podcast, or I'll post it on my blog. But it really put things together for me. And what they did was that they measured the power divide. So in sort of South Asian cultures, there's a very large power divide between sort of the boss, the worker, the parent, the child, the policeman, and the citizen. And there's a a belief there that to say no to somebody who is in a position of power is extremely rude. It doesn't matter whether no is the truth or not. You just don't say it. And so, it's this power divide that sort of gets in the way of communication. Now, being an American and not being aware of this power divide and not understanding that these people are not giving me the news I need to know so that I can make the business decisions to change the course of the project or, do a workaround or make some sort of decision. My team's just not giving me the information I need, and I just don't know what's going on. And they may be having a difficult time. And so that you can see very quickly. I mean, if you've got a big project going, even a small project going, that power divide is going to be a real problem. So you have to know how to sort of cut through that and make it safe for them to tell you the truth and do those things. And, my technique in the beginning was to get utterly frustrated. And then, of course, they lock up. They don't want to talk to me. They get more nervous. And before you know it, it's just, I got to fire him and I got to go hire somebody else. It would have been a lot better if I understood it from the get-go, sort of cultivated that communication and dealt with it in a better way. And so that's what I've learned. And I'll tell you what, I've been dealing with Southeast Asia for 15 years, and I read this article 3 years ago, and it completely changed the way that I dealt with Southeast Asia, and it has made such a difference. But it was really about understanding that power divide.
So Jeff, do you mind if I put you on the spot real quick?
Go ahead.
What about creating a really good article for our next issue of Appreneur magazine? Can I get you to commit to that right now?
I can do that. Yeah. Yeah. No problem.
I'll throw in a few quick experiences I had about working with guys in different countries. The first is that this is going to sound a little strange, but if you start to notice how they talk, like how specific people talk from different countries, they have various, like they might use words in different ways, and after a while you start to realize what those words, what they think that means.
What they really mean.
Yeah, and like it's all the same thing that we're doing. It's just that they learn English a different way. I find that if I talk back to them in the same way that they're talking to me, things go a lot smoother. Yeah. And so like I kind of let them kind of set the bar for how much English we're going to do and work within those confines. And that can be hit or miss, but I find that it goes a lot smoother when I can talk kind of in their vernacular a little bit.
Hey, Len,
so let's hear your best Indian accent.
Oh my gosh! I think we'll get into like legal battles if I start doing that.
We'll keep this as socially sensible.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this very.
Oh, come on, guys.
Yeah, very top level.
Well, cool, man. I think I have one last question. I know we're going way over than what we planned to, but I'll leave it on this, and then we'll just kind of close it off. Is the old adage, you get what you pay for. In as far as developing, do you find it to be true?
Oh my God, Carter, this is my philosophy, and please tell me if you don't agree with this, because I'm not completely sure it's true. But what I think is that we hire folks. Say we're hiring them out of India, and we hire them for $10 an hour, and we get some code back. I have found that the quality of that code at $10 an hour is roughly the same as if I were to pay some college kid in the United States $10 an hour to do that code. And in India, if you get sort of a developer with, say, a 7 years experience, they're going to charge you $30 an hour. Whereas in America, you could hire a developer that has, say, 3 to 4 years experience, and they're going to charge you $30 an hour. So and the quality that the code I get from both is about the same, but my communication with the American is a lot easier. So I don't know that the economies of scale are genuine, but here's the deal. There are not a lot of developers in the United States for less than $40 an hour, and they're very hard to find. And even now in our sort of recession, or whatever we call this that we're in, it's still very hard to find developers in the United States. So I don't know that obviously there is going to be somewhat of a cheaper price for offshore workers, but I don't know that it's as big as everybody thinks it is. You're not hiring like the Indian version of a $40 an hour developer. You're hiring a $10 an hour developer, and that wage will hold true around the world. So I don't know, Carter, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's in my experience, it's really hard to say you get what you pay for, because I've had guys that'll give me amazing stuff for super cheap, and I've had guys give me horrible stuff for a lot of money.
That's also true.
What I will say is that I have kind of like a mental graph in my head about what this ratio looks like, but it's like if you expect to outsource creativity or problem solving at a low price, you're going to get bad results. That's kind of that's what I think. And then if you have very executional work, where it's very black and white, literal, like no question about it, that you can point to and say this is a yes or no answer, and there's very clear deliverables, you have a much better chance of being outsourced that at a low rate and be able to expect to get, it should, unless you have to. And if you do, you want to pay a lot of money for it. That's kind of that's kind of what I do.
Yeah. Well, that actually is a really good time to be able to segue off and close things up, because that's a really valuable piece of information, and it also allows us to be able to come back in our next podcast and be able to expand on some of these topics as well. And so for everybody watching, and I hope that you've really enjoyed this first podcast from AppClover.com.
Episode 1.
Yeah.
And episode 1, yeah. And we want your feedback and different content that you want covered. Let us know. We're always open to suggestions, and we hope that you can look past our first endeavors in this, and you see, as for an example, I don't have any kind of AppClover. My name's not below me or anything else. Those little glitches are going to happen. We outsourced that, actually. And
if we only paid $10 an hour for it.
Yeah, it needed more creativity on that one for sure. But we appreciate everybody watching, and please share this with everybody you know as well. Help us spread the word. Check out AppClover.com and Appreneur for more information. Both of those will be having the latest and most up-to-date, freshest information on marketing and monetization in the app world. As well as, please also check out weblance.com. There's
sign up for beta.
Yes, if you sign up for the beta, there's a special offer for the AppClover community. So if you sign up for beta on weblance.com, you're going to get premium membership free. It's roughly a $240 savings. So again, go to weblance.com, sign up for the beta, and you're going to get some awesome savings right away there. So that's for sure. I suggest you go to weblance.com and also check out what Carter Thomas is doing at bluecloudsolutions.com. That's bluecloudsolutions.com. And follow him. He's actually his blog is incredible. Has some great information. Yeah, it really has some awesome information. And we're also going to be having both Jeff and Carter on Appreneur Magazine and on AppClover as well, being able to share more secrets and insider tips with us, and find out what's really going on.
Oh.
The building, marketing, and monetization. So, Matt, did you have anything to add at the end?
No, I just want to comment on a couple things. First of all, Jeff wins the Awesome Mic Award.
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. Check that out.
That thing's amazing. And then also, Len, I love the whole floating head thing you've got going on, too.
Yeah, I know. It's, I'll try to figure it out, but it is, and when I put the black on this morning, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good, I'll look like this orb head, floating.
Awesome. It makes you really concentrate on your face. So
it's like the crystal ball technique,
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, and honestly, one of the cool things about kicking off this first one with you, Carter, is you've got a great following on your site, and we know a lot of people that know you as well, and we're looking forward to number one, you adding into the magazine as well as being on this. So really looking forward to seeing what the feedback is on this and stuff, and wanted to thank you for being on it, and obviously look forward to future ones that you want to be on as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been awesome.
Definitely. In our second podcast, also, we'll have another guest as well. That will be able to shed some more light on this app culture that we are all in. And so for now, that pretty well does it. But like I said, definitely check back on all the sites I mentioned, and you'll be able to see these podcasts ongoing in a series from appclover.com. So until then, we bid everyone a farewell, and definitely check back continually, regularly. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.